Hello and welcome. Today we are going to go ahead and take a look at the Harbinger. So the Harbinger is a Battlecruiser class ship, which just means that it is a Class C ship that's designed to carry a lot of crew, sleep a lot of crew, and have at least 1,000 cargo capacity. Everything beyond that is basically bonus. Now, this particular ship started out as me attempting to do a Starfield rendition of the Harbinger from EVE Online. Um, this did not really work out particularly well. The big thing with the Harbinger in EVE is that the front section here is a whole lot more vertical than anything that you can get in the base game of Starfield. If I could go ahead and say put that Stroud cap up front in a vertical configuration, um, then I might start being able to get the angle that I would be needing to, pull off the Harbinger. But this was the best that I was able to do within the base game limitations. So the Harbinger in Eve has a much taller front, and then it kind of lowers down um, towards the back, and then has a pair of kind of engine pods sitting off to the side. This particular ship manages some of those features, but it still came out to be a kind of interesting little build if taken out of that context, simply because it is something that we have the Cabot Bridge that is not at the very front of the ship. It is actually built into the rest of the hull. Additionally, I bring this around here, you can see that hidden right up front, we have a recessed forward docker. You can see right here. And finally, despite all of its other failings, design and appearance wise, it still maintains a very large crew capacity and is also able to accomplish basically anything that you might want to do in game. So, let's go ahead, take a tour, then we'll see how it's built, and then I will give it a test drive so you can see how it performs in combat. So, we do have the side mounted Stroud landing bay. And you can see that this is entering immediately into an armory. Moving up, we have a 1x1 companionway. And then up a little bit more is our infirmary. Now, since my focus on this ship was on the exterior shape and not the interior shape, I'm not all that pleased with the interior pathing. However, it is still workable-ish. So, coming out of this middle companionway, we enter into a Stroud 2x1 all-in-one. Behind us, we have a Stroud 2x1 all-in-one. And then we have a Tayo 2x2 all-in-one. Moving forward, there's another 1x1 companionway directly in front of the previous one. So basically two back-to-back right there. We will investigate that momentarily. Coming up here, though, we end up in the Nova Galactic 3x2 mess hall with our galley on over here and a cooking station. The forward side of the mess hall, we have a 1x1 companionway, and this then leads to our docking bay axis. Then over on this side, we have a 2x1 all-in-one. So far we should have seen 16 beds. Yep, math checks out. Then coming into this 1x1 companionway, we can go down. And when we come in here, we find ourselves in a 2x3 cargo hold. This particular one is the Nova Galactic one. Going up one level, we find ourselves right next to a computer core, computer room. And then over here, we have the battle stations. And I do believe that both of those were Tayo. Interesting. Then coming forwards, we enter into our Cabot Bridge. And then finally coming back here, we have our Tayo Captain's Quarters. You can see that it decided to stick a ladder so you can go all the way up and down through the Captain's Quarters, despite the fact that, you don't necessarily need that. And that is the interior of the ship. As you can see, there's plenty of habs that you can adjust for your own preferences. And again, my focus on this particular vessel was the exterior, not the interior pathing. So, let's go ahead and see how the ship is built. Alright, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our colors in our palette, because, of course we are. And again, because this was an Amarian ship originally, it is all gold, naturally. Alrighty then. So normally at this point, I would go ahead and select all and delete. However, this particular build has confused me enough times that I'm going to go ahead and keep the reference copy right here and then build a new version of it right next door. So, let's get started. We are going to go ahead and start off with that Stability Pro landing bay. There. Alright. And then, coming over here, as you can see, we have the Stroud Armory. So let's go ahead and grab that. Alright, directly in front of the Stroud Armory, you can see that we have the Nova Galactic Cargo Hull. Just like so. Alright, now let's go ahead and start deleting the pieces that we have added on. Alright, so with those three removed, you can see that we've got a Tayo companionway, a pair of them. And here we are just using the mid structures. Alright. Then, behind it, we have the all-in-one 2x2. Then all-in-one A and an all-in-one A. And then on this side, we have an all-in-one B. So let's come on over here to the Stroud, and we're going to grab the all-in-one B. This is going in over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and place a all-in-one A And then I'm going to place another all-in-one A. And then I'm going to come on down here to tile 2x2 mid. And randomly grab pieces until I can get it to do what I want. And I'm going to grab the tile 2x2 mid. And we're going to come back down here. And we are going to delete the pieces that we have added to our ship. Alright. Next, you can see I have the Deimos Infirmary, battle stations, computer core, and mess hall. So let's go ahead and start with the mess hall. And then here we are going to go ahead and take the tile, and just to confirm which variation, sorry, the Deimos Infirmary. Just like so. And then we delete the mess hall and the infirmary. You can see we've got the tile top B, battle stations, and computer core. And then up here we have the top A, captain's quarters. And then looking right in here, we have a Deimos companionway, chosen because it is at the top of the list. And then now we are going to go ahead and grab our Docker, which is going to be that Hope 11-4. And then we are going to go ahead and grab that Cabot C4 bridge. Alright. And then we come on in here now and delete the pieces that I've added. Alright. So here you can now see what the HAB layout is. Now, taking a look at this, you do see that the two companionways here could probably get swapped out for something else. We could also look at going ahead and, say, taking this rear companionway here and putting in a tile top A or bottom A, so we don't have these side connection pieces. 3x1, though then it would have to be an engineering bay. Or just doing something to try and figure out some better pathing for this whole ship. However, this was the shape that I ended up figuring out that could work. And it's really just a matter of just fiddling with kind of the dimensions here until you can get it to function how you want it to. So, let's now go ahead and look at the bottom of this ship. Actually, yeah. So we are going to go ahead and focus on the landing gear. And you can see here that we have 3 AccuLander 11s in the back, another 2 up front, as well as an NG-20. And then on each side we have a Pinpoint 4G that is forming the basis of our wings. So let's go ahead and put that on. So, AccuLander 11, 3, 4, 5, and then our NG-20. All right. From here, we are going to go ahead and pull this off to the side a little bit more. And we are going to go ahead and grab those pinpoint 4Gs. Just like so. There we go. Now they're at the right height. Alrighty. So let's go ahead now and start from the back and work forwards. So you can see that we have this little gap right here. And looking at this ship, this is where our grav drive is. So we've got the RD3000 beta grav drive. And this is providing us with 36 grav jump thrust. Additionally, right behind it, connected right here on the 2x1 or 2x2, I should say, is going to be our reactor. And you can see I just used a Pinch 8Z reactor here. Next up, I'm using 4 SAL 6330 engines for this ship. So let's come on over here and grab those engines. So there's one connected on each side of the reactor, and then one connected to each of these landing gears that are stationed off to the side for the moment. Now that that's all in place, let's go ahead and delete a few pieces. All right. Next up, we are going to go ahead and finish our little engine pods. So you can see that beyond the landing gear and engine, we are just using a pair of Tayo cowlings, a side cap on this low section here, and then an engine bracer A. So that is all structural components. So we're going to start on the bottom with the side cap. And we're going to come to the front, where we are going to go ahead and grab our Tayo cowlings. And then on the top, we are going to go ahead and grab that Stroud engine bracer. Now, as for where this is connecting, we are putting it basically slightly forward. So not at the rearmost connection of these 2x2s, but one forward of that. So that way this engine bracer is going to be just behind where the landing bay is. So let's go ahead and repeat that on this side. Just like so. So this means that these pod engines are slightly forward of the rearmost engines as well. At the moment, where that is connected on the bottom, there is a small gap here. Now, strictly speaking, we could go ahead and just put some AccuLander 11s in here. We could also put cargo in here. But I decided to go ahead and put these Stroud cowlings in here. You'll note the Stroud cowling is basically the same thing as the AccuLander 11. However, for some reason it has more mass and doesn't provide lander thrust. So, strictly worse landers, but I didn't like the look of extra landing thrust there. So, you know, appearances matter sometimes, I guess. Alright, let's go ahead and delete these pods out here. Alright, so looking off at this back portion now, you can see that we have some Tayo side caps that are around this. And then we have these Stroud cap A's and C's forming the back. So on these sides, let's go ahead and grab those Tayo side caps. And you can see we can afford to go a little bit further forward. So we are putting one in front and one behind the engine bracers. And then we are covering the bottom outside edge of the cargo hull and the outside edge of the computer core and the battle stations. And actually, no, we're not covering the front of the computer core battle stations, because that's going to be covered by the Ulysses tank. Alright, so let's go ahead and copy those side caps on over to the other side. However, no, not there yet. Alright, so next, to continue finishing up the back, we are going to go ahead and grab those cap A's. So we're going to take two cap A's, and then we are going to go ahead and take the cap C. So now that we've got that solid line there. Next, you can see that in front of that, we have a pair of Galleon S203 cargo holds. So let's come on over to the cargo. And for these, if you wanted to use the 40Ts instead, or you wanted to do the smoother line of the S202, you certainly could. Looking up here, you can see that these cap A's up here are connected to the cowlings in front, so you don't need this top connection point. And we are placing a total of 4 of these on this ship. Again, you could certainly go ahead and have more by, like, say, replacing these cowlings with more, but you are then going to suffer from some mobility issues. Alright, so now that we've deleted a few things, we can see I did actually go ahead and hide my shield generator under one of these caps. So, you do not have to do this, but I don't like the look of the shield generators most of the time, so I like hiding them. So I'm using, of course, the Assurance SG-1800, and what I just did is I duplicated the infirmary up and then moved the cap C up, and then I'm duplication glitching this down. So I'm going to copy it, push it down, hit cancel, and ta-da, I am done. Alright, now that I've got all this, I can go ahead and take the cap A's and cap C's, duplicate them up, and push them forwards, so that they are now over the cargo holds and the infirmary. Alright. Next up, you can see that I have some Stroud cowlings forward of this. So let's go ahead and put those into place. Okay. Next up, let's talk this little side piece here. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to note that when you are inside the Cabot C4 bridge, you can see that there's basically this little section right here that's about the length of a single hab, and there's a small place right here where you will walk, and then there's going to be ladders that come up basically they start at the bottom here, and then they work up to the second floor around here. This means that if we go ahead and we put in, say, a Deimos mid-bracer or a Stroud mid-bracer in one of these, or kind of tuck it in this corner here, you're going to see that inside the bridge. However, if you take something that has a slope, like say the Stroud cowling here, if I place it like this, so that way the tall section right here is facing inwards, that is going to be visible on the inside. However, if I flip this, so that way there's the kind of curved section is pointing inwards, you cannot see this clip now inside the bridge. All right, there we go. So clipping in like this is technically clipping into a habitable space, but not in a visible way, which is what I find acceptable here. All right, now that this is here though, I am going to go ahead and take a side cap and place it right there. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a Nova cowling. And I'm going to convert this to the rear orientation. Now, over this Nova cowling, I'm going to go ahead and grab the fuel tank. And for this ship, I'm using a pair of the M50 Ulysses HE3 tanks with 250 fuel each. And I am flipping this into place over this cowling. Next, forward of this cowling, I'm placing a Stroud Cap B. As soon as I can find it. There we go. And looking at this, you will notice that the Stroud Cap B goes from the full width at the front of a hab, and then it narrows down a little bit to about the same width as the Nova cowling. From here, I am now going to go ahead and put a Hope Tech thruster on the front of this. If you wanted to, you could also use a Nova weapon mount, but I didn't need extra space to attach weapons. Alright, so that is the configuration of this whole pile of garbage. So let's go ahead and copy this on over to the other side of the ship. So we're going to start with this, flip, cancel, and then flip that into place, flip the Cap B, and then place the thruster on the front. Alright, now from here you can see that basically what I need to do now is I need to fill out this whole little front section here. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and do a Stroud Cap A. And you can see this is clipping in some. However, again, it is not clipping in any visible area because up here, we're all on the second level of that cabin bridge. Beneath that, I'm going to go ahead and grab the Stroud Cap C, Nose Cap C. And then I'm going to take the Cap A. Then I'm going to come on over here and grab myself a Nose Cap B. Place it somewhere. And note that in the downward facing orientation, it fits, but when we flip this, yeah, Now it doesn't fit. So I need to flip glitch this into place. Then copy the cap A, and then the cap C, and then we're going to copy the cap A again, place it, flip it into place, copy the nose cap B again, bring it up, flip it into place. And there you have it. This is the basic shape of this ship. Alright. And we can see that for some reason the game decided not to properly attach the docker. So let's fix that and then reflip these cap Bs back into place. Alrighty. From here, we now get to apply our weapons. Now, again, because this was an EVE Online replica ship, I decided to do all turrets. Because EVE Online basically uses turrets for everything. Because aiming is, for the AI, not for, pilots in an MMO. All you need to do is hit F1 after all. So, we are going to place 3 equipment plates here, one on top of each of these Stroud Cap Bs, and then one somewhere in the center. Note, there are plenty of other weapon mount locations, so do not feel obligated to go ahead and choose the same ones that I did. I just chose to put them in those locations. Now, let's go ahead and grab those weapons. So this is a Class C ship, so I just decided to do mostly Class C turrets. However, I did end up deciding to go with the Disruptor 3320 neutron turrets because these are non-auto turrets. And I just was doing a little bit of a binge for non-auto weaponry. So these are Class B turrets. However, they are still quite high damage, provided that you give them enough power. Next, for our Class C turrets, I have the Obliterator 250. Again, a non-auto turret. This one is also just one of the best in the game as well. And then, finally, to round things out, the PBO 300. And I am placing 2 on top and then also 2 on bottom. Just like so. Alright. And then the last thing we need to do is paint our ship. And of course, for a Mars Supremacy, all gold. And there we go, the squished Harbinger. Alright. So now that you've seen how the ship is built, you can see that with a crew of 9, it's a pretty reasonable amount. You might be able to get more if you were to swap the computer core over here out for a control station head, or you might not, who knows. But we are only 68 mobility, so this ship is a little on the slower side. If we wanted to go ahead and add more cargo, we would also need to look at swapping our Class B beta grav drive out for a Class C one, which is then going to require a few other changes because Class C ones are twice as tall, or 2 heads tight. We could also look at adding extra engines, but not entirely sure where I would want to put them on this ship. So let's just go ahead and accept. And then we will take the ship out for a spin. Alrighty. Let's find Serpentis on the map. So again, I have all turret weaponry. This means that I'm going to basically just show up, point my ship in the general direction of the opponent, and let my turrets do all the work for me. If you are a lazy gamer, or you don't really like piloting ships, this also makes it near perfect for you too. And as you can see, I worked really hard for that. Alright. Let's go see how well it performs against some hostile activity. Fun fact here, you cannot actually use your targeting to lock on to ships with all turret weaponry. This means that if you are looking to be able to capture ships, a loadout like this is not ideal, to say the least. And I don't feel going all the way over there. Alright. Let's go ahead and see how well this holds up versus another planet or two. Now, speaking of the all-turret weaponry, you will notice that all of my turrets are forwards facing, so I do actually need to point in the general direction of the enemy. However, um, you can have turrets that are rear facing or side facing. I just found that when trying to do that on extreme difficulty, that if I couldn't just like point in a direction and have all the turrets fire, that sometimes I couldn't get enough damage on target, and therefore I would struggle to have my turrets eliminate my opponent before I took too much damage. Now, on lighter difficulties, you could definitely go ahead and adjust your weapons around. Um, maybe have your turrets rear facing if, say, you didn't take the piloting skill, though you kind of have to for the Class C weapons. Or if you just don't like doing the whole thruster vectoring around type stuff, flying backwards, you could just have all your turrets face backwards and just always run away from things. You could see there, I took a good bit of damage on that one. And there was exactly nothing that I could have done to change that because I can't direct where the turrets are shooting. So, alrighty then. Well, I'm going to go ahead and leave it off at that after running into a few ship pieces. So if you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much, and I will see you next time.